There's something about celestial themes that always draws me in. The vastness of the night sky, the feeling of weightlessness, the way gold and deep blues create such a rich contrast. I'm taking you through my full process, from the first sketches to the final details, while also sharing where I find inspiration and how you can tap into your own creative spark as well. This painting started as a simple idea, but as it often happens, it evolved along the way. It wasn't a smooth process. Firstly, I forgot I had started this as a digital painting for over half a year. Then I wanted to finish it in watercolor, almost screwed it up, and then ended up saving it by turning it into a mixed media piece. But we'll get to that in a minute. Every painting begins with an idea. Sometimes it's a vivid image in my mind, other times it's just a feeling I want to capture. This painting had both. I started with thumbnail sketches, small and messy drawings that helped me figure out the composition. I knew I wanted some sort of floating figure, flowing fabrics and golden magic weaving through the scene. But I needed to refine how everything would fit together. If you're struggling with composition, thumbnails are your best friend. They let you experiment without pressure. Just a few minutes of sketching can save you hours of frustration later. I came up with a few ideas here and scrapped others. I could see this turn into a whole series at some point. But let's start with this one, shall we? My inspiration for this piece stems from a series of events. First, I made this watercolor painting in my sketchbook, which I told you about in my first sketchbook tour. It was inspired by a certain feeling that some music gives me. And then I absolutely fell in love with this color palette and this general feel of celestial or ethereal imagery. Later down the road, I even had a sort of light bulb moment where I came up with a story that would fit nicely into a fantasy novel. The story is about a realm where some ancient godlike creatures can wield molten gold as magic. These goddesses live in sacred temples underground to be as close to the earth's gold veins as possible. But as you enter one of those temples, you'll find yourself surrounded by night skies, clouds and stars. And that's what sparked this image in my head. So sometimes inspiration is something really specific that inspires me, and sometimes it's just a random spark. Think about it. What sort of music, story, feeling, imagery, texture or color draws you in? And how can you include that in your art? Or is it much simpler than that? What things, situations or thoughts give you that itch to make art? That can literally be everything. A key element I have found to be important is to give yourself permission. Permission to be led by those sparks of curiosity. Try not to judge if your idea is too random, not interesting enough, not original enough, whatever. Just create and go down that path to see where it takes you. You don't have to have everything figured out from the start. Sometimes the best ideas come when you let go of expectations and allow yourself to experiment or even run into dead ends. But back to this painting. After I arrived at this stage, I forgot this painting for more than half a year. And when I stumbled upon it 2 weeks ago, I decided I wanted to continue it in watercolor and finally finish it. And that's what I did, at least until I screwed it up. I promised to tell you how I almost ruined this painting, and it starts here. To be honest, I was aware this could go wrong. I never tried masking off parts of the painting with masking tape instead of masking fluid before. I don't know about you, but I don't like to use a lot of masking fluid just because it's difficult to handle and makes a mess when you peel it off. So I just painted in the edge of the figure and masked the rest off with tape. I even tested which one of my masking tapes holds up best to water. I swear this one was the winner. But as you'll see in a second, it didn't work out. Anyway, I started with watercolor washes to create a dreamy atmospheric background. I used a wet-on-wet technique, letting the colors flow and blend naturally. I layered the color until I was satisfied with the intensity. I'm still practicing to not fiddle too much with watercolors once they are laid down. At least this high-quality cold-pressed cotton paper helped with that, because it made the color flow better. This part of the process is all about patience. Letting the water do the work instead of over-controlling it. Waiting for the layers to dry. It reminds me a lot of inspiration itself. The more you try to force an idea out of nowhere, the more it resists. But when you step back, allow things to unfold, that's when the magic happens. It's all about the flow. Once the background was dry, I had to face the mistake I made. The color soaked through the tape at the edges and left stains on the figure. Nice. I tried blending the color with a wet brush, but as you can see, to no great success. Actually, I'm a little glad this mistake happened, because I learned a new thing this way. I'm definitely not repeating this masking technique. Also, it led to the decision to develop this painting further, by turning it into a mixed media painting. But to be honest, I was really frustrated. And after I filled in the different areas with a soft base color acting as sort of an underpainting, I needed to step away from the painting for a day. So that's where I left the painting off. Honestly, I'm also a bit relieved that I kind of failed with my approach, because I need to fail in order to make room for creative solutions, to move on, to make something new out of it. And I can't do this if everything just works out as I planned. So in a way, I'm a little glad that I failed. I set myself up to fail, and it was a nice learning experience. I know that this technique I used, I won't use anymore. Need to find something else, something better. I don't know if it was the tape or I don't know. Yeah. So in a way, it's a win. I learned something. The only thing I can do to save this basically is to paint in an opaque way. So I think now I'm gonna go in with gouache to cover up all those marks and the, the ugliness. In essence, this painting has shifted from being a digital painting to a watercolor painting to a mixed media gouache painting. Now I've come back with fresh energy, and let's see if I can make it work this time. Let's go. With a fresh mind and new motivation, I brought out the acrylic gouache. Watercolor is beautiful, but it has limitations. It can only get so bright, so opaque. This is where the mixed media approach really shines. Now I had the advantage of not having to think about layering as much. I could just paint over areas until everything felt right. This combination lets me get the best of both worlds, softness and control. This painting is much more evolved than the one that started this journey. And since I'm planning to evolve further, I'm excited to see where I'll be at in the future. That inspiration didn't come out of nowhere. It came from a song, a color, a feeling, a story. Inspiration is literally everywhere. You just have to notice it. I am a firm believer that inspiration can and should be practiced. Mindfulness and curiosity are important factors in this. Once I noticed and followed my patterns of things that interest me, inspiration comes more and more easily to me, every day. If you are feeling stuck, here are some quick tips. Number 1. Listen to music and let the mood guide your sketching. See where that takes you. Number 2. When you go for a walk, pay attention to what catches your eye. Then ask yourself, why? Number 3. Notice the pictures forming in your head when you read. Number 4. Look back at your own past work. There might be an idea waiting to be revisited or inspire new ideas. Number 5. Allow yourself to follow the thread of things that draw you in. You might be surprised where it leads you. Inspiration isn't something you have to chase. Sometimes it's already around you, just waiting for you to see it. Of course, the best part of a painting always comes last. I was so excited to bring out my palette of different beautiful gold colors. I fear I'm starting to hoard golden art materials like a dragon, I don't know. But now, it's time to paint in the golden magic. In this last stage, I focused on refining details, sharpening edges, deepening shadows, adjusting the balance of light and dark. And of course, adding some highlights. These final touches can make all the difference. I used colored pencils for this so I can work really small. They layer over acrylic gouache and watercolor really well, so that was a good choice. It's easy to get caught up in perfectionism at this point, but I try to remind myself, no painting is ever truly finished. At some point you just have to decide to let it go. That's part of the beauty of creating. Each piece is a snapshot of where you are in that moment. And this is the finished painting. I love how the gold contrasts against the deep blues, how the floating fabric adds movement. This one was such a joy to create, even though it was quite the journey. I'd love to hear what inspires you. Let me know in the comments. What sparks your creativity? And if you enjoyed this and don't want to miss out on future videos, consider subscribing. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time. Bye!